School sucks. School really sucks. Have you ever thought that before? How much school sucks? I think it sucks for a lot of different reasons, but probably the most important reason is because the things you learn in school don't really help you in the most important areas of your life, right? The things you learn, all the subjects you learn in school, all the useful stuff that's supposed to be useful, it doesn't really benefit you in the most important areas of your life. And that's what education is for, right? That's the purpose of education, to give you something that is useful in your life, right? To benefit you in some way so that you can benefit society and make the world a better place. Right? That's what education is for. If I'm wrong, let me know down there in the comments if you have a different idea of what education is for. But I would say basically education is supposed to help your life, right? For example, you learn how to tie your shoes as a kid, and that really benefits you in your life, right? Or you learn simple math, right? Let's say you have 3 apples and your dog eats 2 apples. How many apples do you have left? You have 1 apple left, right? That's something useful for your life, right? So the problem with school is it might teach you things that have varying degrees of usefulness, but I don't think it really teaches you the most useful things that you need to know in your life. And so I want to ask you a question. What do you think is the most important thing someone could learn in school? And when I'm talking about school, I'm talking specifically about kindergarten to grade 12. Now, I realize not every country does education the same way. Maybe it doesn't go to grade 12, but in Alberta, where I'm from, I think most people graduate from high school, which is grade 12. And then after that, they might go off to college, or they might get a job, or they might go traveling or something like that. Sorry, you gotta bear with me. I have a sore throat today. So, whoops, that's a full, I don't know if I can drink like this. Oh no, I spilled some water on my microphone. My microphone is right there. Hope I didn't spill too much water on it. So I want to ask you the question again. What do you think is the most important thing someone could learn in that period of their life? I was thinking about that, and I thought of 3 things. 3 things that I think are extremely important that aren't taught at all in most high school, in most schools, like K to 12, that I know of. Right? I wasn't taught about those things in my school experience, and I'm willing to bet you weren't taught much about those things either. So I'm going to tell you what my 3 things are, but first, I want you to think about it. I want to give you a few minutes just to think about what your answer would be. And let me know your answer down there in the comments. So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to tell you about some of the things I did learn in school. In my English class, I remember grade 10, 11, 12, we learned about Shakespeare. Remember, we spent a considerable amount of time studying Shakespeare. Now, if I ask myself, has that benefited my life in any real way, in any significant way? To be honest with you, I don't think so. I don't think Shakespeare has really given me anything useful that I can take with me in life, So that was English class. Also in math class, grades 10, 11, 12. I don't remember any of it. And I mean, I remember how hard it was. I remember how much I didn't like it, but I don't really remember basically, I don't think it's had any real benefit. It hasn't given me any benefit in my life, right? I remember in high school, I took the advanced math. There were two options for math you could take. You could take what people called stupid math and smart math. Basically, the difference was that a lot of universities, if you wanted to go to university to study something like business or, I don't know, science or something, you needed to have, it was called pure math, right? The tough one was pure math and the other one was applied math. But people called applied math stupid math, and the other one they called smart math. So I took the smart math for the sole purpose of getting into college. I wanted to give myself the option if I wanted to go on to study business, which I did. I needed to pass pure math with like 60%. And I think I passed it with like 64% or something like that. It was pretty close. But anyway, it was enough to get into college, and that was great. That's what I wanted to do, right? So, but when I think about what we actually learned in that class, hard stuff like trigonometry, calculus, like algebra, tough algebra, all those formulas. Man, did you learn about stuff like that in your high school math? Let me know honestly, has that benefited you in any way? I mean, maybe if you're an engineer or if you are, I don't know, what areas, how could it really give anyone any real benefit? I don't know. But if you have benefited, let me know how it's benefited you, because I was thinking about it, and to be honest, not only do I not remember any of it, when you don't use something, you forget it, right? If you learn a language and you don't use it, you forget it. If you learn something about math, like trigonometry, even the basic trigonometry, sine, cosine, tangent. Remember, did you learn about the angles of a triangle? This equals this equals. It's like, I don't remember even the basic stuff. And I never use it. I never need to use it. So those are two things I learned in high school that were, sort of useless. It's hard for me to think about a practical application or a practical benefit that it has given my life. So anyway, now I want to come back to the question I asked you at the beginning. What is the most important thing someone could learn in their school years? And the three things I thought of were in no particular order. I think they're all basically, equally important. Health, money, and relationships. Okay, those three things, health, money, and relationships. And those things are really integrated, right? Integrated means connected. They're really connected, right? If you lose your health, there's a very good chance you're going to lose your money and lose your relationships, unfortunately. If you lose your money, then very often you're so worried that you lose your health, and you probably lose relationships over that too. Maybe you have to work so hard to try to make some money. You don't have any time for relationships, and if one area suffers, all the areas suffer, right? If your relationships suffer, like if you go through a divorce, let's say, or something, there's a very good chance that you're going to lose a lot of money, and you're going to lose your health, right? You won't be able to sleep. I remember I had a classmate at one point in college whose wife left him, and he couldn't sleep. He was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, right? When you have when your life partner leaves you, it's an unreasonable expectation to assume that your health and your money are going to remain intact. It's not going to happen, because if you rip one thing out, everything is going to fall apart. right? So I would say those three things are really, really important. And the problem is that you don't learn about them in school. At least I never learned about those three things in school. And the thing is, for all those three things, you're expected to go to someone else to solve that problem for you. For example, let's say you graduate from high school, right? And you don't know anything about money, but suddenly you're expected to pay your taxes. You're expected to file your taxes. And how do you do that? I don't know. Whoa, what do I do? You look at those forms and it's really confusing. The tax system in Canada is really confusing. And so that makes someone really stressed out. I think a good formula for stress is if you're expected to do something that you don't know how to do. And not only expected, you're obligated to do it, right? All Canadian citizens have to pay taxes. They have to file their taxes. Even if they're a student, even if they don't make any money, you have to do your taxes every year. And that's really stressful if you don't know how to do it. So what people do is they have to hire an accountant to do their taxes for them, and it's the same with health, right? If you get sick, you're expected to go to a doctor. People say, oh, just go to a doctor. You're sick, go to a doctor, So with these three things, with health, relationships, and with money, with relationships too, like if you're having relationship problems, you just break up and find someone else, right? The idea of taking matters into your own hands and actually fixing the problem is sort of foreign to people. They don't even know, a lot of people don't even know that they can do anything about it. That they should be able to sort of take control of their own health, or take control of their own finances, or take control of their own relationships and learn about that. So that's just a real tragedy that people need. With the three most important things in life, people need other people they need to pay other people. They need to pay a tax guy. They need to pay a doctor. They need to pay a relationship coach or something like that. Why? Because they were never taught how to navigate these issues, right? And this is really important. If you listen to people's problems, if you listen to people talk about the issues in their life, I would say at least 99% of all the problems in people's lives fall into one of those three categories. Either they're sick, right, and they need to go to a doctor, or maybe someone in their family is sick, and that's a problem that they're talking about, or they are experiencing financial difficulties. Maybe they're in debt. Maybe they don't know how they're going to pay their mortgage, or they don't know how to pay off their credit card or something like that. And then the third one is relationships, right? Maybe they're going through a breakup, right? So if you just listen to what people are talking about, I think the problems are in usually one of those three areas. And so it's astonishing that people graduate from high school and they don't know anything about it. And it makes you feel really vulnerable when you know you need to do something, but you don't know how to do it. So, when you graduate from high school, I remember feeling this when I was in high school. I remember feeling poor, knowing that when I graduate from high school, I was not going to be prepared for life. I wouldn't know how to do my taxes, or I wouldn't have received an education that gives me the tools to deal with those things, right? Like relationships, money, and health. Did you learn anything about health in school? I mean, there is a class in Canada called PE, which stands for physical education. Right? Yeah, I took PE all throughout high school, but it's sort of a joke because if think about it, physical education. Actually, all we did in that class was play sports, learn about sports. We did like a week of basketball, a week of soccer, a week of, I don't know, whatever different sports we learned, right? So really the name of that class should be sports education. We didn't really learn about our bodies. We didn't learn about nutrition, how to eat right, how to understand maybe different like allergies, how to detect an allergic reaction in your body, and how it might be linked to something in your diet, for example. That's really useful information, right? Like imagine so many people suffer from migraine headaches, for example, and they don't know why they don't know the cause of it. Just, a migraine comes one day and then maybe a week later they get another one and they don't know why it's happening. Well, for a lot of people, it is linked to something they're eating. Their body is reacting to something, like it could be gluten, it could be something else that their body is reacting to. But they just don't know that they can take their health into their own hands and really try to investigate and find out what the problem is. In my own life, I would say the past 5 years, I've really tried to investigate what is causing some of my health issues. I've been really sick in my life. In the future, maybe I'll talk more about my health challenges that I've had in my life. But I would say the past 5 years, I've really tried to take ownership of that, mainly because I haven't had help from anywhere else. Doctors don't know anything when it comes to chronic illnesses, unfortunately. If you have a chronic illness, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I would say it makes you feel vulnerable. When you graduate from high school, you need to do your taxes. You don't know how to do it. You feel like, you feel really stressed, right? Or if you go to a doctor and you realize the doctor doesn't care about you, the doctor doesn't really know anything about your condition, you feel vulnerable. Just like, you're just I don't know, you're just a small fish in a big sea, and you feel like you're in danger. It induces anxiety, stress, depression. All those things are so common, so prevalent in our society. So many people are taking antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, and it's a real tragedy in our society that's the way it is. And I think one of the reasons is that people aren't adequately prepared for life. They weren't taught these most important things. I mean, what use is it if you know how to solve a really tough math problem, but you don't even know how to keep a relationship? Did you know there are a lot of educated people in the world who are lonely? People who have maybe 2 or 3 PhDs in rocket science or nuclear physics, and they're lonely. They go to bed every night and they feel lonely, or they feel sad, they feel depressed. What happened? They're so educated, right? They have everything. Well, not really, because they weren't educated in the most important areas, right? How to fix a broken relationship, how to eat right, how to understand your own body, and there are people who, really educated people, who don't know how to manage money. They literally don't know what money is. They don't know how to make. They might know how to get a job, but they don't understand anything about business or anything about about growing a business or investing. And it really makes you wonder why our education system is like that. Who came up with this idea that we should learn, Shakespeare, and we should learn trigonometry and not learn about health, or not learn about how to do your taxes, or how to how to solve conflict in a relationship, how to tell someone you're hurt, and like I said, it makes you feel, when you don't know how to do those things, it makes you feel really vulnerable. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, I don't know anything about cars. I don't know anything about mechanics. Okay, if my car, something happens, I feel really vulnerable. I remember when I was in when I was in college, I think my first year of college, there was something wrong with the brakes on my car, and I went to a mechanic, and he checked it out, and he said it would cost, I think, $800 or $900. I can't remember. I think it was over $800 to fix my brakes, and $800 for a college student is a lot of money, right? And so I thought, oh man, well, I should go to a different mechanic just to see, just to get a second opinion. And I went to another mechanic, and he said he could fix it for $200. $200 compared with $800, right? So I saved a lot of money. Again, when I was in college, I remember going to a dentist, and the dentist said I need to have a root canal up here in one of my teeth, and it was going to cost, I think, about $500. And that's a lot of money for a college student, right? So I went to see a different dentist, and he said, I don't need a root canal, I just need a normal filling. And I think it cost maybe like $150 or something to get my tooth fixed. So, the reason I'm saying this is just to explain the idea of how vulnerable you can feel when you don't know about something. When you don't know if the mechanic's going to lie. Mechanics have a terrible reputation for like basically swindling you. Swindling means like screwing you over, right? Screwing you over because they know you don't know anything, right? When I go get my car fixed, I don't know anything about it, right? So the mechanic could tell me anything and I'd probably believe it. But because I don't trust people, I have a hard time trusting those kinds of people when I know what the situation is. It's the same with dentists. Dentists can just get away with murder, basically. They can tell you anything. Oh, you need a root canal. Okay, how much? $500. Okay, you don't know, right? So you just end up paying it. So it feels so bad when you're in a situation where you don't know how to do something, and so I think that's really one of the tragedies. But the thing is, that there is an answer. Like for example, with relationships, if your relationship is broken, you sort of have this idea that it could be fixed, right? You could salvage the relationship, or you could figure out how to pay your taxes, or you could that you could probably find a way to heal your health problems, but you just don't know how. So there is an answer, but you're not really sure. You're not sure how to do it, and it might take a long time to sort of figure out yourself how to do it. Well, I think a lot of these problems could be solved if people learned more about those three things in their first years of life, kindergarten to grade 12. And I don't know, I mean, you might be thinking, well, those things should be taught at home. It's a person's parents who should teach them how to do those things. Yeah, maybe. But the reality is that most people, if someone doesn't learn those things, how are they going to teach their kids? So it's just going to, it's just going to pass from generation to generation. If you don't know how to do your taxes, for example, in Canada, man, taxes are confusing, right? I even for me, I have a diploma in finance, and when it comes to the idea of taxes, it's just like so stress inducing, to do my taxes. Where do I even start? How do I do it? So for normal people who don't have any experience in finance, it's sort of, it's so foreign. The idea of taxes is just such a foreign concept that you just have to pay someone else. You have to hire someone else to do it, right? So if a person doesn't know how to do it, how are they going to teach their kids? They're not. Their kids are going to have to pay someone else, and then it just, the cycle just keeps going, right? So I think it would be definitely a good idea for people in school, to at least receive some basic education on things like relationships. It's funny, there's a lot of talk these days about sex education, right? Oh, kids in this part, this school is starting to use this sex education curriculum. And some people say, yes, finally, kids are learning about sex. And then usually all the religious parents in the community say, no, we don't want our kids learning about all of that stuff in young kids, right? Yeah, for me, I think it's crazy that kids get sex education in school, but not relationship education. What? That's sort of like learning how to change a flat tire on a car, but not learning how to drive the car, right? I mean, the idea is that you want to have a car, right? You want to have a nice car and you want to drive a nice car. And, if you just learn how to change the flat tire, but you don't learn how to drive the car. I don't know, maybe that's not a perfect example, but you get what I mean, right? Relationships are what people need. And sex is a part of relationships. So why not have relationship, why not have a class about relationships, like learning, like dissecting problematic relationships, looking at case studies of, a divorce, for example, or breakups. Why did this happen? This person was saying this thing, this person was saying this. Where was the problem in the relationship? Why did it fall apart? It's funny, high school students dissect animals in biology class, right? You dissect a frog in your biology class. Oh, there's the frog's heart. There's the frog's liver. But, it would be so much more useful in life to dissect relationships. Why did that couple get divorced? Because they didn't go into it wanting a divorce. They loved each other, but somehow it just couldn't work. But, things can be fixed. If people understand, just a little bit of education, a little bit of knowledge goes so far in life. And if you don't even know how to do basic things, if you haven't been taught something, where are you going to learn it? For example, how to give someone a hug. And how to give someone a hug. Now you might be thinking, what? That's stupid. Everybody knows how to give a hug. You just give someone a hug. Well, actually, no, that's not true. A lot of people don't know how to do it. They've never done it. They were never taught how to do it. I remember my grandma told me that the first time she ever got a hug from her dad was, I think, when she graduated from college or high school. One of those, I can't remember. She was like a fully grown adult. The first time her dad ever gave her a hug. I've heard of so many stories like that, where people say, my parents never told me they loved me. I never heard my mom or my dad say, I love you, right? So you might think it's easy to say, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You're doing great. Man, that's awesome. You're so good at that. Is it easy to say those things? Well, maybe it is for some people, but maybe it's hard for other people because they were never taught how to do it. For me, I would love to be more comfortable around children. I'm not naturally good with kids. I love kids, but I'm not naturally good with kids. I always feel a bit awkward. I feel like I need to do some. Well, here, what I should say is I feel awkward with affection. When it comes to affection, kids need affection, right? Kids need to be hugged. Kids need to be played with. Kids need to be, there needs to be physical contact. They need affection. But for some reason, I just get a bit awkward with that. And the reason I am awkward with that is because I don't have any experience. I mean, I do have some experience teaching kids in China, and that was great. I always gave kids high fives and played with the kids, and they loved it. But actually, when it comes to affection, like giving kids hugs, and I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I want to be natural with kids, but it's hard for me. And actually, a funny story about being in China. I remember after one class of teaching kids, they were about 6 years old. So after teaching one class in China, a mother came up to me, really nice, in a really quiet, humble way. She said, "Mark, I have a request for you." And I said, "Okay, what would you like?" And she said, "Could you touch my daughter more?" She said, "Could you touch my daughter more?" And I was like, "What?" Like, you would never hear that in Canada. You would never hear a Canadian parent tell a male teacher, "Hey, could you touch my daughter more?" I was like, it was so funny. It was funny for me. I was shocked. I think I tried to, I think I reacted really calmly. I said, "Oh, yeah, sure, okay. What would you like me to do? Give her more hugs?" Or I think, I was pretty calm, but inside I was laughing and shocked. Because, I mean, think about it. A woman is asking me to, and it was funny because those were the exact words she used. She said, "Could you touch my daughter more?" And somehow the word touch, it just sounds, it sounds really bad. Like, it shouldn't sound bad, but it sounds, it's like the first thing I thought of, is all the the stories in the news you hear of sexual, I don't know what word to use, abuse, sexual assault. In Canada, teachers aren't allowed to touch their students. I mean, maybe in some contexts it's okay, but most of the time, if a teacher touches a student, they could be charged with sexual assault or something like that. So it's pretty serious. That's why, especially coming from Canada, knowing that the extreme politically correct environment in Canada, I don't want anything to do with kids in Canada, right? It's just like, it's scary, yeah, because you hear so many stories, and people are afraid of it, for good reason, because there are so many stories of sexual abuse, or weird things like voyeurism. Do you know what voyeurism is? Voyeurism is taking pictures or videos of people for sexual pleasure. I remember reading a story of a teacher in Ontario, I think, who had a pen. I think it was this year or last year. I can't remember. Or maybe it was just in the news this year. Maybe it happened a long time ago. I don't remember the details of the story. But I think the teacher had a pen with a camera, a hidden camera in the pen, and somehow he was taking pictures or videos of the female students in his class, and somehow they caught him or whatever. And I can't remember what happened with the court case, but that's an example of someone using their position, of education in a way, a bad way, right? To get some sexual pleasure. So you hear about this so much in the news that as a person who is innocent, like I'm innocent. I've never done anything like that in my life. But yet sometimes I almost feel guilty knowing that people almost assume that of me, or people will, will that will enter their mind. And if I know if I know that's going to enter people's minds, then I just get really careful, right? So around kids, actually, I'd really like to relax and be more affectionate with kids. And it's just a tragedy that that knowledge is, or that fear is stopping me. Now, I'm not around kids now. I don't teach kids now. But it did affect me back when I was teaching kids in China. And in the future, I'd love to teach kids again. And I'd love to be able to just relax and be more comfortable with kids. So anyway, it's a sort of a long story to say I wish I was. Oh no, my battery. I see my battery's gonna die on the camera. I better wrap this up really quick. So basically, I'm just saying that I'm not educated in that, but something like that would be really valuable for my life, to know how to give a kid a hug, or how to be more affectionate with people, how to be a good leader. Right? Leadership is also part of relationships. Right? Leadership is all relationship. I mean, you can't have a leader without relationships, right? It's managing relationships. And so these things, relationships, health, and money, man, it's so important. Let me know, are you educated on those things? When you were in high school, kindergarten to grade 12, did you have any classes about those things? Did you feel prepared for those things going forward? Now, you might think all the other stuff is important, like learning trigonometry and learning Shakespeare, because it teaches you, it forces you to think and develop your brain, your mind. Even if it's not important, it helps you think and learn how to think. Well, yeah, maybe. But what I would say to that is, you can actually learn how to think by just thinking about useful things too. I mean, if thinking about useless things teaches you how to think and exercises your brain, if all thinking exercises your brain somehow, then you may as well pick something that's useful. Like, let's say you could learn how to play chess, or you could learn how to do your taxes. I mean, which is more useful in your life? Now, chess might be great. It might have a lot of applications, and it might train you about life in some way. But actually, when you graduate from high school and you know how to play chess, but you don't know how to do your taxes, you sort of feel a bit weak. You feel unprepared for life, and that's I think that's just a real tragedy, that high school, or the whole school process, teaches things to the kids that they don't really need, or they don't need as much as other things. Like, I'm telling you, listen to people when next time you're on a bus or a subway or whatever, and you're listening to some problem. My camera died. What was I saying? Oh yeah, if you listen to people's conversations, and you listen to their problems, I think most of the problems boil down to one of those areas. It's either finances, relationships, or something to do with their health. And I think that's really why school sucks. School sucks so much because it doesn't teach you, at least in my experience of school, it didn't teach the curriculum. There was nothing in the curriculum about those things. and it should have. I mean, those should be the most important things, right? If you may as well start learning about the most important things, and then if you have time, you can learn about other things too, like Shakespeare or whatever. It's awkward when you learn about things that aren't important, and then later on in life you realize, wow, I need to know how to make friends, for example, or how to how to how to how to take care of my money, or how to get a job, or just real practical things. I think the idea of school, or the people who designed school, I think their idea is, we want to train you to get a job, right? The idea is that you go to school, you get good grades so you can get a job. But that's just not that's not a good model, because what if the economy goes bad, and what if you can't find a job? It's not your fault. You might have top grades. It's sad for me. It's sad to see people who are really smart in a lot of areas, but don't know how to make money, and they don't they they have to just work in a job that they don't like, or a job that they're not even good at, just to pay their bills, because they lost their job. Actually, I met someone not long ago in Calgary in a store. There was an elderly gentleman working at a hardware store, and I don't know why he started talking to me so much, but yeah, I guess he just felt like he needed to talk, and he told me all about his career, how he worked for a company his whole career, and then just before retirement, just before he would get some benefits or his pension or something, I don't know, they sacked him, they fired him, and they just really they just really screwed him over. He was a good guy. He was obviously a good guy, a nice guy. He said he worked really hard for the company, and he got nothing, from them. So yeah, that's really sad, right? When people have to, I don't know, have to go through those kinds of problems in life. I mean, problems are part of life. That's why we need education to know how to overcome problems, right? I mean, just because there's a problem in a relationship doesn't mean the relationship needs to end. It can be fixed, as long as both people are willing to, and who believe it could be fixed. Um, Same with health issues, right? They could be, yeah, a lot of health issues can be overcome. Things can change if people can get some education, just some basic education on how to do that. But I think our education system has really failed kids. That's why, personally, if I had kids, I would never put them into Canadian education. I think the Canadian education system is pure garbage, and I wouldn't put my own kids in the school system. That would just be so bad. I have zero confidence in the education system to pick useful things. What is the most useful thing, to learn? What's the most useful use of time? And I think the people who choose the curriculums, who make the curriculums, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why they choose the things they do. I've never worked in, that area. I don't know what goes through their brain. For me, you start with the most important thing in life, and then you move up from there. And you use common sense, like not teaching sex education without teaching, uh, relationship, how to have a good relationship. You don't want kids just to be like having a ton of sex in their life without. They don't need that. They need relationships. People need relationships. They might want Sometimes they might want sex, but that's really not what they need, and they're going to be really lonely later on in their life. Just like a guy like Jeffrey Epstein. Is that what his name is? Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein. You know, had everything he wanted. Whatever he wanted, and then he ends up dying, dying all alone in a jail cell. That's not a good way to end. But That's just some rambling thoughts on why school really sucks and how I feel poor because of the education that I could have received that I didn't receive from specifically high school, but basically all of school, the curriculums should be designed to teach like really important stuff, not useless facts, just useless ideas. The good news is that if you didn't learn something in that period of time, it's not too late to learn about it. You can learn so much on YouTube, learn so much from reading websites and books and stuff, how to take care of your health, how to take care of your money, how to have good relationships. And so I think I've learned a lot. I've learned so much more on my own in life than I have through school. So that's good news. And I'd like to learn a lot more in the future. So yeah, anyway, just keep learning, and and I guess don't let the failings of the school system let you down. And even though you have been let down, and don't let that destroy your life. But I just wanted to make a video on why I think school sucks so much. It's just terrible, and it's surprising that teachers don't talk about it. I don't think I've ever heard any teacher talk about how much school sucks. And actually, I don't know if I've ever heard other people talk about it. I think I'm the only one. But maybe let me know down in the comments if you also feel this way, if you think school sucks, or if you've heard of other people talking about it. I don't know. I don't. Maybe it's just me that doesn't like it, but I think it's just basically a lot of useless stuff. Not all useless. Like I said at the beginning, it has like varying degrees of usefulness, right? Like if you learn about Shakespeare, it's not useless. It has some value. Everything has varying degrees of usefulness. If you dissect a frog, that might be useful for you. You can see how a frog's body works, but in my opinion, it would be much more useful to dissect a relationship, or to dissect a balance sheet, a company's financial statements. Hey, what's this company doing? How can we analyze a good company to invest in, for example, or even looking more into the human body, how our body works. Yeah, I don't really learn a lot about that in school, so that would be great. Anyway, that's my rant for today. The lack of just the poor education system, and hopefully it'll be better. Hopefully all the teachers in Canada and the world will watch my video and say, hey, wait a minute, you're right. These kids are graduating from high school and they don't know how to live life. They're really struggling. They're suffering. Did you know that a third of Canadians are chronically lonely? I heard that last year. I heard that statistic. One third of Canadians are chronically lonely. That means they're lonely all the time, every day. And that's true. If you go to a mall in Canada in the morning, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a lot of elderly people just sitting and just looking at people. They're lonely. They just want to be around people. They don't have any friends. They don't have any family. They're just they're just they're just in the mall because people need to be around other people. That's just we're our the human race is hardwired that way. We need each other. We need each other. We can't pretend like we don't need each other. And so that's a real tragedy in Canadian society, that so many. And I would say, uh, when you go to a higher age group, like 50 plus, I would say the lonely rate is probably more like, I don't know, probably more like 75%. I would say if you go to like an old folks home, for example, or you see elderly people in a mall or whatever, yeah, they're I would say probably 75% of them are really lonely. And but yeah, who knows, There's just big problems like that in society, and nothing is being done at the beginning to sort of prevent that from happening later on. And so, all the education in the world is just useless unless it really helps you. Like I said at the beginning, unless it helps your life, so you, yeah, it's, you might feel really poor watching this video if you're lonely, if you know how to do some great stuff. You might be an accountant. You might know how to do, how to design a car, how to fix a car, how to do whatever, but if you lose your health, you lose everything. If you lose your money, you basically lose everything. If you lose your relationships, you lose everything. So there should be a greater emphasis on teaching kids what really matters. Well, I'll end with that note, and I wish you guys a great day. Yeah, wherever in the world. I'm just enjoying a nice day here in Thailand. I'm gonna eat a mango right now and try to forget about how much school sucks. So have a great day, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.